Hello and welcome to Brain Injury Bites, where we provide help and advice for people after a brain injury. Hi, I'm Ashwini and I'm a trustee at Headway Warrington. I'm also a senior associate solicitor focusing on catastrophic injury, including brain injury.
My name's Brooke and I've lived with a traumatic brain injury since 2007.
Hello, so in this episode we're going to be looking more at the impact that brain injury can have on cognitive function. We've already touched a little bit on your memory difficulties, Brooke, but I think we'd like to explore more about difficulties that you've experienced with attention and concentration in particular. It is important to point out, of course, that brain injury affects people in different ways. And so when we're talking about cognitive function, there can be all sorts of impacts in relation to attention, memory and concentration, as we've mentioned, but also processing, understanding, communication, decision-making, planning and organisation. There's so many different avenues that we can go down, but I really would like to focus in on your experiences in particular. So in an earlier episode, Brooke, we touched on, for example, how you tend to do things that require a lot of cognitive function, a lot of thought, lots of brain power, I guess, in the morning, because that works better for you, with anything more physical being in the afternoon. And we mentioned then as well that obviously it's different things work for different people. Another thing, though, that can be really helpful is therapeutic input to help come up with strategies around attention and concentration. But it's not always easy to actually concentrate, is it? Particularly when you're recovering from a traumatic brain injury. So what sort of techniques did you work through with your therapist?
That's a big thing to go, the people's attention and concentration. It's just, I mean, I started off early days, I couldn't even concentrate on an advert. I remember that, what's it called? The meerkats thing. Oh, yeah. I remember starting that and just kind of forgetting about what it was about towards the end of the advert. And it was, my concentration levels were 20 seconds tops. But I worked with a neuropsychologist. What he sort of drilled into me was your concentration is actually the main function of your brain that you can train, like you can in the gym. You can eat something that you can improve. One of the tasks that we got set, that I got set, was to start a film, and you have like a synopsis on the back of a film, a summary of the film that you've just watched anyway. How it would work would set a timer for a minute. At the end of that minute, you would write down what just happened. The idea was you increase the time that you would watch the film for into 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 20 minutes, and hopefully at the end of it you can watch a full film. I wouldn't say I don't have any problems with it now, but it's certainly a lot better than it ever was. But another thing to note as well is distractions, because you just become horribly prone to distractions. So if you're trying to do something, make sure you're just doing that one thing, not trying to do two things at once. Because although it's men that are meant to be bad at multitasking, it's people with brain injury generally that are really bad, because that's it, because they're so distractible. I was told this course that we used to do at a charity called Basic, I was told that nobody can multitask, not as in do two things at once. What the people who are supposedly good at multitasking can do is they have the ability to divert their attention from one task to another task and then back to another, or to several tasks at once. But at no one time are they actually concentrating on two tasks at once. They're just concentrating on they're dividing their attention between different tasks, and it's difficult for people with brain injury because they just get so distracted. You try and flip between tasks and you forget about the other one. So the idea is that if you're doing something, you need to minimize your distractions and concentrate on that one task in hand.
Yeah, I suppose, yes, that ability to jump from one to the other requires quite a lot of elasticity in a way, a lot of flexibility of your brain to fire from one thing to the other, and
something that you don't have anymore.
Do you think that's gotten better for you?
It's gotten better, definitely, but it's definitely not. It's not fixed. That's the thing with brain injury. It's like some things do naturally get better, but a lot of things that don't get better, you have to learn to just do those things differently. So with that, by that I mean different like strategies. For instance, I use my phone a lot. I drive people mad with the alarms going off on my phones, but it works. For instance, I have to take medication at 9 o'clock every night. I have to give myself an injection, and I've been doing that must be like 13 years now, and my alarm goes off at 9 every night, and what I do is I snooze it if I haven't done it, and I keep snoozing it till I've done it, and that's what drives people mad, because it goes off every 9 minutes. And quite often, if the alarm goes off and I snooze it, then 9 minutes later I've forgotten again, and so it does work for me. So I just have to make sure I do it and do it now.
Yeah, I suppose with your concentration, especially where there are lots of things going on, it's about trying to make things simpler, to break things down a bit, do things one thing at a time. And just thinking about some things that, involve a lot of natural multitasking or a lot of distractions just by their very nature. An obvious activity that comes to mind is driving. And I'm sure many of the people listening to these podcasts will be in a position where perhaps they're not able to drive, but they want to get back to driving. But, there are lots of things to think about. You're concentrating on the road ahead. You might have the radio on. There might be, pedestrians, and you're sort of thinking about them. And obviously the actual process of driving, changing gears, steering, etc., operating your pedals. There's a lot going on. How did you find returning to driving, incidentally?
When I first returned to driving, the first thing I did was I just went with a normal driving instructor who used to put the radio on. We used to always drive with the radio on, and I suffered. I really struggled at my driving lessons. I then researched a brain injury driving instructor or a disability driving instructor, and the first thing he did was there was no radio, and he changed me to an automatic car. Although people used to say that when they were driving a manual car, you would think that them driving gears, particularly if they've been doing it a long time, just becomes automatic and it's second nature. But what he explained to me was, on some level, you are thinking about that, taking that need away to process that.
You're making it simpler, aren't you? You're not giving your brain too many things to think about. It reduces your cognitive load.
Yeah, cognitive load, that's the one, yeah.
Definitely. So, that's perhaps something that many of our listeners could identify with and think about. And do you still drive an automatic car now?
I still drive an automatic car, yeah. I don't think I'd ever go back now.
Hey everyone, this is a short segue to introduce our new home, the Community Compass app. It's a space built just for people navigating life after serious injury and for the families, friends and carers walking that path with them. Inside, you'll find real stories from others living with brain injury, tips for recovery and wellness, and a community that truly understands what you're going through. Community Compass isn't just an app, it's a place to connect, to be seen, and to find strength when you need it the most. So if you're listening and thinking, I could use that, then just search Community Compass on the App Store or Play Store, download it and come join us. We've also touched on this before in a previous episode when we were talking about fatigue, but I suppose, building in routines and activities can also help with training your concentration, your attention, maybe doing things in short bursts and planning them in.
The thing I found with having a brain injury is that in many ways I sometimes think I've got no problems at all, but then they tend to be the times that I'm well rested, refreshed, and I've got plenty of energy. The times when I do suffer is when I've been doing something for too long. So to doing something in a short burst is definitely the answer, and do something and do it well rather than just drag it out, and you just after a little while your concentration starts to go, and you become tired, and you become sloppy.
So I guess to sum up, in terms of help and tips that we can offer to our listeners, decreasing distractions is a big one. Turn off your television, your phone, anything that can cause you to lose attention. Perhaps going into a quieter area if you struggle with lots of people talking or lots of noise, removing yourself from that situation. Deal with one thing at a time, break things down into smaller tasks. Brain training might help, as you suggested before.
Improving your concentration, yeah. That was one thing when I started driving. I mean, my neuropsychologist used to give me these different concentration tasks to do as homework, and I was never good at doing homework at school, so I just never, something I never really took to. But I found that when I was driving was something I really wanted to do, and I was quite passionate about, so whenever I was driving, I'd give it my full concentration, and when I was driving, that became a concentration exercise in itself. And the more I did, I found the better my life improved. So, and
I suppose when you've got the confidence, when you are able to regain some element of concentration through that, and I guess you build your confidence to be able to apply those strategies to other areas as well.
You do, yeah. There's a knock-on effect, like I mentioned, with the memory, and just I think you've got to approach every situation being as well rested as you can be, and with a view not to do it for too long. And sometimes you have to go, to leave the situation before you're ready, particularly if you're going into a social situation. And I mean, social situations can be really fatiguing. That was something that I really, really wanted to get back to, because when I had my injury, I was a student at the time. So my big thing was to get back to my social life, and I didn't realise actually how cognitively demanding and how exhausting my social life was at that time. So there's a situation where you can still be there, you can be present, but you can't be there, if you know what I mean. And
as we've discussed in a previous episode, the importance of rest, it all ties in really. The impact of fatigue can then have a knock-on effect on your attention, your memory, your concentration. So the importance of taking regular breaks, not trying to overload yourself, so that you can really try and get the best out of your recovery.
Fatigue has been, for me, it's been the biggest thing in my recovery, really, and it's the thing that's least understood by outside parties. And I think that it's just taken a balance. And that's after 15 years, I don't even know if I've got it right, but I'm a lot better than I was. But sometimes what you tend to do is a critical mistake is not to rest too late in the day. If you rest, you can go to bed at 6 o'clock for an hour sometimes, and then obviously when you go to bed, you can't sleep, and that messes up your next day. So you have to structure and planning is the way to get through it.
Planning, we've talked about setting alarms, for example, and maybe that's it, depending on how your injury affects you. It might be helpful to set alarms for regular intervals, so that you can, to move on to the next thing. To be
in a rigid structure, and alarms are something that help you keep in that structure. And you might not remember that it's something you have to do at 2 o'clock every day, but if your phone will. So as annoying as it is, it does keep you straight.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think phones and technology generally can have so many benefits for people with brain injuries, just in terms of the multifunctionality of it, to take those elements away from your own brain, let the tech do the work.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you check the footnotes for more help, advice and resources. In the next episode, we'll be talking about coming to terms with brain injury.